Services Committee. Congressman, thank you very much. Now, I take it you were a part of this group that was screaming out, hey, look, we don't have any agreement when all the Senate Democrats and House Democrats were saying we do.
Yes, we thought that was very unhelpful. One of the things that we were hoping for as the minority party in the U.S. House, which, as you know, has no ability to stop the Democratic majority from doing anything, was that they would make an honest attempt to either work with us or do what they always do and run over us. We're hoping that they're willing to work with us now, because one of the keys that we have is to try to incentivize the capital that is waiting on the sidelines to come back in through appropriate legislation before you get to an appropriate government backstop at the end for the toxic assets that no one can claim. This is what we've been hoping for. And so I think that the most productive thing that has happened is that people can understand we know the need to act, we know the need to act swiftly, and we're trying to act responsibly by allowing the private sector to recapitalize before you have to get down to the taxpayers, who should always be a last resort, not a first resort.
By the way, are you positive that the market for these assets is totally illiquid now? Because we are hearing some reports, Roger Lowenstein and others reporting earlier this week, that if Citi and Goldman and others wanted to unloan their securities, there is a market for these securities among some hedge fund funders. They're not going to pay as much as the Treasury probably will, according to the Paulson plan, but there is a market. What do you say?
Well, investors are very smart because they rarely pay as much for anything as the federal government would. But what we think is necessary, and we accept the responsibility of the federal government to incentivize investors to come in and do this. What has not happened has been a situation where we even looked at those alternatives. There are people who, with their own money, given the appropriate reason to come in and pick up some of the toxic assets, would be willing to do so. But under the current situation, it makes no sense at all for them to come in. What we need to do are do things like capital gains, where they don't get capital gains because they take this off the hands of the taxpayers before it ever enters. 0% over a long. Those types of things.
Congressman, we got to leave it at that. Thank you so much for coming in. I guess you're not going to get much sleep over the next 48 hours. We wish you the very best. Thanks a lot. Coming up, how are the markets reacting? As I mentioned to one of the congressmen there, not as badly as you might think. A market update when we come back.